Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Northborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job, I'm an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell over in Westborough. But this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've been to any presentations that I've done, you know that Frank and Mary have a very simple goal in life. They're seniors. They want to live in their house till they die. They want to be buried in the backyard. And if that's Northborough, that means they want to be right here. They don't want to go far away. And the point of these shows is to really acquaint you, if you identify with Frank and Mary, with the programs that are maybe of interest to you and the people that may be of interest to you as seniors here in Northborough. So I live in faraway Marlborough and not in Northborough, and so I needed a great co-host to find those people. And Liz Tretiak, who became your senior center director. Oh God, Liz, it's like 6 months now, 7 months ago, a long
April. So yeah.
April. Wow, it's just eternity, it seems, ago, right? Has been finding folks and has got some wonderful guests for us today. Liz, whom do we have today?
We have with us today Larry Hemstreet and Don Dodson. Both are involved with Trinity Church, but they also are involved with 100 other things here in town. And how this came about, Arthur, is we received this email from Trinity Church letting us know that they were involved in this project called the Gale Street store that was rehabbed and turned into condominiums. And affordable housing is such a huge topic, especially for seniors. I figured we have to have these folks on here because they just won a big award as well. So, Larry and Don, would you mind introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit more about what you do here in town and how you got involved with this project?
I'm Larry Hemstreet, member of Trinity Church, been on the property committee. I'm also a realtor in town, working for RE/MAX. And had always been working on habitat builds. And when the call came out for people to work over there, I joined and worked a lot over there. And then Don can fill in more.
Hi, I'm Donald Dodson, also a member of Trinity Church. In 2006, I was asked to get on the board of Trico, which was the owner of that property, of the two houses. I then was the president or manager then until the time that we sold it off to the affordable housing group here in town. I also had been involved with some of the habitat work. When they started construction, I got involved and I was worked on the project up through the finishing of that, which happened in March of 2019.
Right. So this building is actually located on Main Street here in Northborough, correct?
Correct.
35?
It's 3739 is the actual address for that big building.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who are driving down the street, where is that in relation to other things on Main Street?
It's almost across the street from the library. It's next to Trinity Church, the big white church. It's the house with the big white pillars around it.
Okay. And it has some historical significance because it belonged to Captain Gale, was it?
Yes.
Yes, it was. My understanding is it was originally the general store in Northborough, and it actually resided on the property that the Gale Library was built on. And at one point in time, back about 1874 or 94, it was moved across the street from the where the Gale Library is now, to its current location.
Great. So this property, it became available, and how did it come to be? Who made that decision? Who led the way on that?
The Trinity bought the properties back in 73, 74 timeframe, and at that time, Trinity had decided it would be low-income housing, rental units, and there were a number of rental units in each of the two buildings. The smaller building had two, and Don helped me. The bigger building had, I think, had three.
Four.
Four.
Had four apartments.
And Trinity, as a congregation, we've been aging, and taking care of the property became more and more difficult for us. And so the decision was made that we would look for ways to continue the value of having affordable housing in Northborough, but change the ownership. And so there was a lot of work that went on behind the scenes with Habitat and Trinity and the, Don, what was the group in Northborough?
It's the Affordable Housing Committee,
Coalition.
I guess they call it. It's a group set up to look into managing affordable housing in the town.
So, by the way, if I can just be curious, so there was this period from like the 1970s until fairly recently when you folks at the church just managed this property and rented it out to to folks who just needed affordable housing. But that's a huge thing. That's a long period of time, right? And so did the church just own it at all of those years?
No, the church actually set up a separate corporation called TRICO, Trinity Realtor Investment Management Company, and we managed the 6 apartments, yes, during that time period. The buildings were not in great shape. They're both old buildings. Couldn't afford to really bring them up to modern or anything, but they were good enough. They were in good shape in terms of livable space and at an affordable price.
Right. I mean, it just seems it's kind of amazing to me. I don't know of many churches that have gone to that extent to actually really support affordable housing for over a long period of time. That's quite something, right?
There were people that lived there almost the whole time.
Right.
That's terrific. And so I'm sorry, Liz, I was curious about that.
So when I was researching this project a little more, I was coming across so many different names of agencies and people who were involved in restoring the building and getting it transformed into these 4 new condos for families. And the list is huge. It's Trinity Church, Northborough Affordable Housing, Habitat for Humanity, the Selectmen, the CPC, Historical Commission, Assabet Valley Tech was involved with doing some plumbing and electrical work in Algonquin. There were area businesses like Home Goods who did day-long projects. It just seemed like such a huge community undertaking to transform this building. And now is it 4 families who live there? It's 4 condominiums now?
That's correct.
In the 2 buildings, yes. Yeah. There's
Wow.
two condos in the big house and 2 in the smaller house.
That's incredible. Affordable housing is such a huge issue. I think it was just over the summer sometime, a report came out that anywhere in the United States. You could live anywhere and be working full time on minimum wage, and you would not be able to afford a one-bedroom apartment anywhere in the United States. There's just such a shortage of housing that's affordable to families, even single people who are um, just getting out of college. You can't afford to live anywhere. It's so challenging to find that. So having this right here in downtown Northborough is incredible.
So how did you decide to I'm just curious, a couple of things. First of all, how did you decide to get Habitat involved? And secondly, what were they, if you guys are thinking back on it, what were the if there were any memorable bumps in the road? Because I know I've done so in my in my previous, so before I started focusing on elder law, most of my life I dealt with real estate development, right? And there's a lot of bumps in in those roads, right? So I'm just curious if you could just tell us kind of what from your experience, what if were there any times when you just thought this is just not going to work, and there were real problems. Just curious.
There were many times uh, during as far as how did Habitat get involved, I think that was more a matter of the affordable housing had some funds available, but they had not enough means to be able to bring it up to date to the proper standards. And somehow along the line that Habitat also was contacted. They had a great interest in doing a project, and they had the means, some of the funds able, and the labor, volunteer labor available to carry out the project. Uh, it turned out the whole project started to be just rehab. In fact, the big house had settled. It was in such a shape that we literally rebuilt that house from the inside out. Almost everything there is all brand new. There are a few of the old posts and beams still there, but by and large, it's all brand new built.
It was a much bigger task than they anticipated.
There were many conversations among us regular. We call them us, Larry and I both are now listed as regulars since we volunteered for some time at Habitat. And there were many conversations among the regulars about why didn't we just tear down the whole thing and start all over? Might have been easier, quicker. But we got in the middle of it and just carried it out. And it's quite a building on the inside. It's all up to, like I say, all the standards, and it's a very nice facility at this point.
The other reason we turned to Habitat was previously the buildings had been rentals, but privately owned, and there was a lot of trouble between them and the church. And so the whole goal of the original purchase of those buildings was to get affordable housing and have some control over the situation, being
Right.
that we're so adjacent to each other. And when we went to sell, we kept that in mind, and we decided we didn't want to turn it or sell it to just and turn it back into rental property and not have the control. And a number of us had some experience in the past with Habitat and working with Habitat, and they have the goal that they pre-qualify the buyers of these properties. These people have to put in sweat equity into what they do in the house, and a lot of hours, I forget the exact number, but there's a lot of hours of sweat equity they have to put in. So there's some ownership and some pride, and the houses stay in control of Habitat, and they can only sell it for a small percentage above what they paid for it, so there's no escalation of prices. So this keeps it as affordable housing forever. And Habitat is a great owner of these buildings. So we felt that that was the absolute right thing for Northborough and for Trinity Church going forward.
And can you talk about how the sweat equity thing works? So basically they had people who wanted to be buyers, but they agreed as a condition of the eventual purchase that they would put in a given amount of time into the building. Is that how? So I hadn't heard of that before. That sounds like a pretty novel approach.
It is. The way they do it is people will apply to Habitat for ownership. And, you know, I don't know how many they had, but obviously they only had 4 units, so they had a lot of people apply. And those people were conditionally accepted, but then they have to put in, like, Don, tell me, is it like 500 hours?
It's between 400 and 500 hours, yes.
Wow.
Of sweat equity at some Habitat site. Doesn't have to be that one,
Yeah.
but it has to be at some Habitat site. And a bunch of them actually did work. And remember, this the reconstruction project took almost 2 years.
Closer to 3.
Yes, now it all comes out.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, it was it was enjoyable working along with these people and hearing their story of, you know, kind of why they are where they are, but their want to get into a better situation than they had been prior to this opportunity. And it turns out right now in that big house, whereas we had 4 one-bedroom apartments before the project happened, we now have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on the first floor. We have a 5-bedroom, 3-bath on the second and third floors. So that's especially that last unit. I mean, that's quite a unit to have that available and affordable for someone that needs that type of facility.
As you
That's
say,
great.
they're definitely bought in because they're the ones who worked on it. You know, they may very well have spent a lot of their time on that very house, right?
That's
Spending
right.
spending a lot of time.
Yes, yes.
So what's Trinity's next big project?
Yeah, with all the profits that you made from this one, what are you going to do next?
Well, Larry and I are both continued our work at Habitat. We are building a new triplex up in Worcester, creating 3 new condos, affordable housing. But it's a brand new building up there. It's up on Harrison Street. And we about have the first and second walls all put up. We'll soon be putting the roof on and be going from there. We'll go ahead and complete that project. I don't believe the potential future residents have been chosen in that case yet, so we haven't seen any of the potential future owners in that project. But we started with Bear, and we're putting a big building on there for 3 new families to have better housing.
The other major project that we've taken on, and Don and I were part of this, we were a team of 4. We renovated the Trinity kitchen and brought it up to today's standards to better serve the community of Northborough. Trinity hosts a community meals every Wednesday night, and so the kitchen is a very vital part of that. We spent a year rehabbing it, put sizable chunk of money in, brought it all up to code. Speaking of oopses, you open up the floor and you find that there's a lot of damage in the beams underneath, and had to do a lot of reconstruction there. But the kitchen came up and running, and 2 weeks later, COVID hit. So we haven't been able to use the kitchen since COVID hit.
But you're still doing community meals.
Ways to serve the Northborough community, since the church is so centered in the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, can I just have as a general question, those are both really important things, what Trinity Church is doing and what Habitat is doing. If folks are watching, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of Frank and Marys, and of course from our generation, mainly Franks, who had construction experience, right? And who may be retired and may want to be involved, right? Yeah. So is there how would they find, the Habitat, or how would they find Trinity just to connect in?
The Habitat, you can just go to the Habitat website, habitatforhumanity.com, and they have a whole section on how you can get involved, and people can go and work on site. All of the regulars that come and volunteer are all retired people with experience, but there are retired people that come and learn experience as they work on site.
Right.
Unfortunately, with COVID, the number of people they can have on site are small recently, but they're still open for volunteers. So people should go to the Habitat for Humanity website and find out how to volunteer.
Great. That's great. Well, Liz, this is certainly a wonderful, I think, an eye-opener. This may be an eye-opener for a lot of folks in Northborough, because I'm sure I've driven by those buildings, for years and said, wonder what's going on. What the heck are they doing, right? So, right. But to give once again, a lot of the Franks and Marys of this world, who are really wanting back, and maybe they can't do it right now. I mean, COVID's a tough time for seniors, but this is going to end, like everything else. This is going to end, right? This too will be history. And to know that there are these really useful things that they can get involved with is just terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Larry, and thank you, Don, for coming on and telling us more about the project, about Habitat for Humanity. And if people want to learn more about how to get involved with Trinity Church, can they just call, email?
They can call, or they can go onto our website, trinitychurchofnorthborough.com.
trinitychurchofnorthborough.com.
Yes.
Great. Well, listen, thank you very, very much for both coming on. Liz, thank you once again for finding some great people. I think this is not only an individual project that could be of interest to a lot of people, but it may be a real place that some folks may decide they want to be involved in the future, right? Who knows? Maybe they get to be called a regular eventually,
Yeah.
Sure, the pay scale is tremendous.
Oh, yes.
So, Liz, thank you very much.
The emotional outtake is superb.
Is superb. So thank you very much, Liz. Thank you very much, and folks, thank you very much for watching. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Northborough. Thank you.